What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Frankie D'Astoli Show. I am your host, Frankie D'Astoli. As always, I'm excited to have you here. Been a little bit since I've recorded a pod. I think it's been a couple weeks. I've honestly just been so deeply focused on Rosary and Real Estate. Rosary and Real Estate is a group that I created that focuses on building generational wealth while maintaining spiritual poverty, becoming financially free, followers of Christ, evangelizing the real estate investment space. And I've been so focused on that. There's been so many great things that have come from that. I've taken it into an online community, which if you follow me on Instagram, if you follow me on social media, you've probably seen me blasting this out. We have a goal of 100 members by the end of September. And I think at this moment, we're at 54. And I'm recording this on September 15th. So we're halfway through the month. We're a little bit more than halfway to the goal. But in all honesty, we need a push. We need a push. And if you're listening to this, I'm asking you to please join Rosary and Real Estate. If growing in financial freedom while also unlocking that spiritual poverty, growing deeper in your relationship with Jesus Christ, if that is all about what you're looking for, I'm asking you to please join the Rosary and Real Estate community. It is a totally free community, literally totally free. And I'm going to be putting out a ton of free content. We're starting the first one with a what's called a Rare 21 challenge. And just so if you don't know, Rosary and Real Estate, the acronym for it, if you combine it together, stands for RARE, which is actually really ironic because it's extremely rare to be someone who, yes, strives for financial freedom, strives for generational wealth, strives to pass down assets and a legacy to their children, but also understands their place, understands that they are not self-sufficient. They are not their own idol, that there is someone above them, not just someone, there is Jesus, there is God above them who is guiding them, who's guiding their life. And even more than passing down generational wealth, we strive to pass down generational faith. And that's going to be a big topic of conversation for today's episode as well. But to get back to it, we are going to be dropping a Rare 21 challenge. It's the first challenge for Rosary and Real Estate, totally free challenge. It takes place over 21 days, and it is it's understanding and praying the Rosary. We're going to be going through over 21 days, the basis of the Rosary, all of the mysteries within the Rosary, and we're going to talk about how to pray it as well. So the first 7 days is going to be broken down like this. Day 1, who is Jesus? Day 2, who is Mary? Need to know both of those people, need to have a really strong understanding of them before you could really start praying your Rosary. Day 3, the history of the Rosary. We're going to be breaking it down all the way from the beginning of when the Rosary was given to Saint Dominic from our Blessed Mother Mary, the Virgin Mary, when she visited him and gave him the Rosary. And we're going to break down from there, and we're going to build up on it to where we are today and how the Rosary can be used today. Day 4, we're going to talk about why to pray the Rosary. We go through St. Louis de Montfort's book, The Secret of the Rosary, his 10 reasons why to pray the Rosary. Day 5, promises of the Rosary. This is something you maybe don't know about the Rosary. And if you're an avid Rosary prayer, you honestly might not know this either. Our Blessed Mother not only gave St. Dominic the Rosary, but she also gave him 15 promises of the Rosary. 15 promises, her promises for people that pray the Rosary, what they can get out of praying the Rosary, which she promises for them. You know, I've been recording a lot of these challenge episodes, and that was the last one that I recorded. I'm recording a little bit ahead of time, obviously, to just make sure I have a buffer to get everything out in a timely fashion each day. But I just finished recording that one, and I was personally even moved by that recording, because I was saying, this makes me want to pray my Rosary even more devoutly. Our Blessed Mother, the Mother of God, the Theotokos, is telling me that she promises me these things if I pray her Rosary devoutly. Why would I not do that? So that's day 5. We're already 5 days in. There are 5 bangers. Day 6, the prayers of the Rosary. We're going to be breaking down every single prayer that's included in the Rosary. Day 7 is how to pray the Rosary. What are the beads? You know, what's the cross for? The centerpiece in the middle. Why does it have different saints on it and different people? You know, like what's up with that? Why are there 10 beads and then one, bead that's separated from each other? We're going to be going through the entirety of the Rosary, how to pray it, so you understand it, so that when you're clenching it, you know how to move around those beads and pray and meditate. Those are your first 7 days. The second section of the next 7 days, so day 8 to day 14, is going to be the first two joyful mysteries. Okay, so just breaking this down real fast, the rosary contains what's called mysteries, and each mystery is an opportunity for to pray and meditate on the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ and our Blessed Mother, her role in his life as well. So the first 2 days, or I'm sorry, the first day, we're going to cover the first two joyful mysteries. The ninth day, is going to be the last three joyful mysteries. On the 10th day is the first two sorrowful mysteries. The 11th day is the last three sorrowful mysteries. The 12th is the first two glorious mysteries, and the 13th is the last three glorious mysteries. And then on the 14th day, we're going to cover all 5 of the luminous mysteries, which are the more recent ones given to us by St. Pope John Paul II. Day 15 is where we're going to start incorporating our saints. So day 15, we're going to talk about St. Louis de Montfort, his book, The Secret of the Rosary, and some of his messages towards the Rosary for us. Day 17, we're getting into St. Pope Pius V, savage Pope, Rosary Pope, awesome guy. The Battle of Lepanto was the first, at least that I understand and recognize, the first battle that the Rosary was truly invoked and victory was won for the Christian people. Day 17, we're getting into St. Maximilian Kolbe. Awesome saint. He's got the book out, Triumph of the Heart. I mean, not the book, the movie Triumph of the Heart, I think, is out now. It might have actually just launched on this past Friday, but that's about Maximilian Kolbe. He was in World War II. He was in a concentration camp, and he gave his life for another prisoner. Phenomenal story, phenomenal guy. Day 18, we're going into Venerable, she might actually be more than venerable now, but Lucia dos Santos, who is one of the 3 children from Our Lady of Fatima, the apparitions of Fatima, which is a big rosary apparition. Day 19, one of my personal favorites, St. Padre Pio. Just an awesome guy, known for praying over 50 rosaries a day, which just seems insane. Also known for the stigmata, also known for literally getting into physical altercations with the devil. Unbelievable. Day 20, Blessed Bartolo Longo. This guy is crazy. A former satanic priest turns absolute savage Catholic, evangelizing, devoted to the rosary, devoted to our Blessed Mother. Total 180 for that guy. A perfect example of what some people in today's world can become. And day 21, one of my personal favorites, very low-key, Venerable Patrick Peyton, known for really invoking the family rosary, getting the family to pray the rosary to grow in holiness. So this is a 21-day challenge. I just, in the time of recording this, every episode, every challenge day is about 10 to 15-minute episode. That's all it is. It's a video or an audio that you can listen to. The videos are going to be posted on my school page, Rosary and Real Estate. So I definitely recommend that you go. I'm going to put that link in the show notes. I'm also going to be posting them on YouTube. And then you could get the audio on the Frankie D'Astoli Show. I'm going to be posting them on the Frankie D'Astoli Show. They won't count as actual episodes. It's going to be kind of bonus episodes, but it's going to be 21 days of this. And the reason why it's 21 days, so the day that this is going to come out, which will be September 16th, 21 days from today, September 16th, is October 7th. And that is the Feast of the Holy Rosary. So you're going to finish this on the Feast of the Holy Rosary. And on that feast, I'm also going to be dropping a bonus class in Rosary and Real Estate, and we're going to pray the rosary together. So if anybody is doing the challenge and you want to take it and you want to finish it strong and you want to pray the rosary with me on the Feast of the Holy Rosary, we're going to be doing that in Rosary and Real Estate. So I highly encourage you to go. Again, it's a free community. And this is not the only free course that I'm going to be doing, guys. I'm going to be dropping many courses on Christianity. And I'm also going to be dropping many courses on real estate investing. We're going to be talking about house hacking, the BRRRR strategy, flipping, wholesaling, which I've done for 4 years. There's so much that I've learned in real estate, investing, being a landlord, being a business owner, running a portfolio of, at this point now, we're up to 36 units that grew, honestly, over the past 18 months. So we've averaged about 2 units a month. The pros and cons to that, the hardships of that, all of that stuff. So all that to say, my big push here is this. Please go join Rosary and Real Estate. Again, it's a free community. If you want to grow in spiritual poverty, if you want to build generational wealth, that is the place to be. And I'm very, very excited for all that's to come for that. But in any regard, today's episode, I'm titling this, What's Wrong with the World? Okay, because over these past few weeks that I've been a little dormant on the Frankie D'Astoli Show, I haven't brought out much content. There's been 3 major events that have happened in America. And the first one was the school shooting at the Annunciation Catholic School, where all those children were in mass praying. And this man used to go by Robert, now goes by Robin, boarded up the windows, shot through the stainless glass windows, killing 2 children, injuring about 17 others, and then committing suicide. That's number 1. We're going to talk deeper into each of these. Number 2, the stabbing of Irina Zarutska. I think I'm pronouncing that last name right. If I'm botching that, I apologize. Zarutska, I think it is. Yeah. Number 2, the stabbing of Irina Zarutska in the Carolinas on the train, which was tragic. This refugee from Ukraine came over to the U.S. escaping a war, expecting to not be in a violent situation, and is stabbed to death on a train. And then, of course, the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which ironically came while he was talking about gun control. And interestingly enough, you have a lot of people saying, oh, well, he should have listened to, the policies that he was putting out. We should have gun control. You have a lot of people giving a ton of just negative feedback that he deserved to die. And, if you're looking around, you got to be saying, like, what's going on here? What is happening that this is the society that we're in, where people are happy that other people are dying? You have other people that are going in and just murdering children and then killing themselves. And you have other people that are, just getting out of prison over and over and over again, to the point where they're getting out so much that they don't even think that, oh, if I do anything, I'm going to just, go back in and then come back out. So I'm just going to kill this chick. That's where we are. And, it's very easy to just kind of be like, man, just like, forget all this. Like, this world is so messed up. I'm going to dig a hole and I'm going to hide in my backyard. And, as a father of 2 children, I kind of want to do that a little bit, right? I say to Christina, I'm like, you know what, we're homeschooling the kids. We're going to go buy a ranch and we're just going to live off the land and we're going to go totally rogue. And we're going to live off the grid. And that, I'm not going to lie, that has entered my head multiple times. But at the end of the day, that won't do anything, right? Yes, it'll protect maybe what we have going on, but the world is still going to get chaotic. And there's times where sometimes I even think, I'm like, you know what, like, I'm so busy, like, I don't really have time to record the Frankie D'Astoli show. I don't really have a lot of time to build out Rosary and Real Estate. Let me just focus on building this portfolio, keeping my focus on my family, and just going from there, being a good Catholic, going to Mass every Sunday and doing what I can. But I've come to realize, as I've opened up Rosary and Real Estate, as I've talked on the Frankie D'Astoli show, and I'm extremely appreciative of everybody that's reached out to me. There have been people that have been reaching out to me that have been saying, hey, I've incorporated prayer into my family. Or, and I talked about this on my Instagram couple days and weeks ago. A good buddy of mine started praying every single night, and another one started saying grace at the table. And, my other buddy, who I met months ago, was looking for a lot of direction. And I put him on the Hallow app, and he starts praying every day. And all of this to say is not for me to sound like I'm this insane evangelist. That's not the case. But this all derived from me talking about my faith. And, there's that gospel verse from Christ where he talks about, your talents. And he says, I'm not quoting it word for word, but he says, utilize your talents, right? If you don't utilize your talents, you're not doing God justice, right? You're not giving God what he deserves for giving you your talents. And again, I'm not here being like I'm a public speaker like St. Anthony was, or I'm an evangelist like St. Dominic was. That's absolutely not the case. But it's the fact of coming on here and recording it it's made some impact in some people's lives. And I feel obligated to say my piece in some degree. And when I look at what's going wrong in this world, the 2 pillars that are totally shattered right now are faith and family. And this nation, America, was built on those pillars. It was built on it. And it goes back even further, literally like to Socrates, Aristotle. These guys were saying that family is the foundational pillar. And these guys weren't Christians, like these were Stoics, you know what I mean? But they had this, they knew this in their mind and in their heart, that the family was the foundation. And for us Catholics, when we look at it, right, we see that. We see that Christ came from a family, Saint Joseph, Mary, and Jesus. And when you look at that, right, and I'm going to make a whole course on this in family and marriage life and rare, but when you look at that, out of those 3 people, Jesus Christ, Saint Joseph, our Blessed Mother, Who was the most important? Jesus Christ, right? That's obvious. But who was the head of the family? Saint Joseph. So in the order of importance, it goes Jesus Christ, it goes our Blessed Mother Mary, and then it goes Saint Joseph. But who ran the family? Saint Joseph. And what was his mission? To get his family to heaven, right? And of course, he's got Christ, so he's basically with heaven at all times. But then below him is our Blessed Mother, who was second most important, but she was below him in there. And then Jesus Christ, who is obedient to his family, to his parents. From the very beginning, you see the importance of a family. You see the importance of obedience. You see the importance of direction. You see the importance of masculinity in a father and the nurturing beauty, maternal love of a mother. And you see the obedience and the respect that children have for their parents. And when we look at the family, it is getting destroyed. Destroyed. And we're going to talk more about that, right? But then you look at the second pillar, and the second pillar is faith. And I've mentioned this before, but there is a statistic that I read that in the 1950s, 75% of Catholics went to Mass. 75%. It's not terrible, right? It's 3 out of every 4 people are going to the Catholic Mass on Sunday. Do you know what it is today? 17%. Not 70, 17%. Not even 2 out of every 10 people that are Catholic are going to Mass. That's a big problem. Now, why is that a problem in the sense of faith and also relating to the family pillar, right? So you're not going to Mass. And let's just take it even a step further. Let's just say you're not really even like a faithful person at that point, right? So you don't go to Mass, you don't receive the Eucharist, you don't listen to the Word of God, you prioritize other things on the weekends, football, going out with your friends, going to bars, sitting on the couch, watching movies, maybe even watching pornography, smoking weed, drinking alcohol, or even just being a sloth on the couch. All of these things, whatever it is, anything outside of that, you're prioritizing over God, right? So congratulations, you're breaking the first commandment. I know that sounds really intense, and some people might be like, that's not the case. And I know there's probably, Protestant denominations out there that are absolutely saying that to me, but you're breaking the first commandment. If you have an obligation to go to Mass on Sundays and you don't do it, and you decide, the Eagles game's on at 1 and Mass is at 12, and I'm not going to make it back in time. I want to make sure I watch the Eagles game. You just picked an idol over God. We could put it in, very fluffy ways, or we could put it in, direct ways. And that's not to say that you're a bad person. It's not my purpose. I'm trying to break down why this is happening in the world right now. So you have 17% of Catholics that are going to Mass, which means 83% are saying, no, I'm not going. Now, what do the kids see, right? They see, mom and dad, they're not going to Mass. They're not taking it very seriously. So are they going to take it seriously in the future? No. So looking at the 1950s to now, where we've gone from 75% to 17%, we see this massive delta. We have a faithless society for the most part, right? That pillar of faith is very much shaken. The magnitude of who God is, who Jesus is, the importance of the Eucharist, the importance of Mass, that has diminished tenfold. So you have a society, you have generations now over those, 75 years. Remember, a generation is 20 years. Over those 75 years, we have multiple generations where the attendance in church is going down. So you have this significant decrease in faith. And here's where this gets even more intense, is the lower that God gets on the respect poll, right? The lower that God gets on somebody's, opinion of, who he is as a being in his relationship with us, the lower the respect gets for the devil also. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you believe in God, most of the time you believe in the devil. But if you don't believe in God, most of the time you don't believe in the devil. And the devil's slyish trick is getting people to not know who he is. Because if you don't know who the devil is, you don't realize what he's doing to you. And that's the way of the world right now, right? And when we look at what's happening in the world, we see demonic activity. I saw it was like a picture the other day of, the Charlie Kirk assassination. and what people were doing when he was assassinated, right? After they were assassinated, they were gathered in these big prayer sessions, beautiful sessions, people coming together. They're praying for the repose of his soul. They're praying for America. They're united with each other. They're in a great place with each other. And then I saw a comparison of when George Floyd died and what the reaction was there. And it was fire, literal fire, places burning, videos of people stealing things out of the store and people just letting them go, throwing things through shop windows, robbing people. It was absolute chaos. And when you compare the two, it really is good and evil. Like, that's what it is. It looks like it. It's exactly there. And, all that to say is, if you are not praying, if you are not in Mass, if you are not learning who Jesus is, you're not only just denying the good, you're denying the evil, and you're letting it creep into your life. And again, we're just going to look at this from a little bit of a bigger scale, and then we'll kind of break down some of these instances here. Let's look at what's through the roof statistically in America right now. Okay, divorce is at a 50% rate. And I just finished this book by Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen. It's called The Declaration of Dependence. It's a beautiful book on America. He wrote it during the time of World War II, where he was, really promoting the fact that the Declaration of Independence is actually a declaration of dependence, because the freedom is based on dependence on God and dependence on moral laws. And when we look at what's going on in America right now, at that time of him writing that, divorce was 1 out of every 5. It was 20%. Now it's 50%. So 50% of marriages, 1 out of every 2, is ending in divorce. What does that tell you? That tells you that there's a lot of distraction going on. There's a lot of kind of false commitments, and there's no true covenant being understood. Actually, you know what? There's probably a better way for me to even say that. I would say the reason that marriage is kind of falling through the cracks is because people don't understand what Jesus did for us. That's maybe the better way to say it. Jesus Christ died on a cross for us. He died for his church. That is the role of a husband, to die for your wife. And by doing that, he entered into a covenant with us. Marriage is not a contract. That's what a lot of people say that it is nowadays. They say it's a contract, right? Marriage is a contract. You're going into a business relationship. That's what people will say. And contracts, nowadays especially, are easily broken, right? People are breaking contracts left and right. Doesn't matter in what business it is. So if you go into marriage and you think, oh yeah, I signed a contract, but there's got to be some way out of the contract, you're going to find a way out of the contract. That's why divorce is at 50%. But if you go into a marriage understanding that it is a God-given sacrament and it is a covenant, it's a different story. When you go into marriage and you say, I am marrying my spouse and our goal is to get each other to heaven, that's the goal. And to procreate, to have children, and to raise those children in the faith and to protect them and to guide them all throughout their life. Now you have fortified values. And divorce is through the roof because, number one, people don't understand that it's a covenant, not a contract. Number two, people are extremely misaligned in their values, right? You have a husband who's marrying a wife, and the husband still wants to go party on the weekends, and he, is kind of like, maybe we'll have a kid, but I'm still young. I'm only 32. I want to wait a little bit longer until I'm financially successful, or at least until I feel like I got everything out of my system. And then you have the wife who's married and she's 29 and she's like, oh man, my biological clock is ticking a little bit here. I want to be a wife, and he's going out all the time and he's partying. And I feel like I'm not getting any satisfaction out of this marriage, and I'm not getting what I thought I signed up for. And that's where the values are misaligned. Or you have other people that get married and, they don't want kids. And that's a big misalignment of value. Or other people that get married that think that faith is important and the other person doesn't think it's important. And there's this huge misalignment in value. And I'm so confused. I'm so confused because, people are doing things totally backwards a lot of the times. They're dating for 5 to 10 years and then they're living with each other for another 2 to 3 years, and then they're getting married, and then, or maybe even before they get married, they're having a kid together, and then they're getting married, and then they're married, and all of a sudden their values don't align. I'm like, what are we talking about all day long when you're together? Like, you're after 15 years of being together, you realize that they don't want kids, or that they think that like it's okay to watch porn. Like, I'm just so confused. I'm so confused on what's going on here. But there's the lack of values. There's a misalignment of values. And in my opinion, this is what the values should be. The values should be to enter into a marriage that's centered around faith, that believes in having children, raising those children in the faith, and guiding the family to heaven. I promise you, if you have those values, divorce rates are going to drop significantly. But why can't we have those values today? Well, because the faith pillar is shattered. The faith pillar is shattered. So getting back to a little bit more about some other stuff of what's going on. Divorce rates really high. We see that we also live in a world of just self-satisfaction, right? Everything is about me. Take the iPhone. Literally the iPhone, it has the word I in it. iPhone, it's my phone. What's the biggest brand of iPhones? Apple. What's up with the name Apple? I think there's actually a lot of significance to that name. If you bring it back to the Garden of Eden, right, where the fall of man was created, what happened? Eve ate the apple and then gave it to her husband, Adam. He ate of the apple, and they realized that they were naked. And that's where sin started. And Apple, the iPhone, although it's an unbelievable tool and could be so helpful, right? You need to track down a missing person, or you need to call a loved one, or even just, you get to, check my wife's location, like things like that, right? Little things like that, or even better, right? Like I get to, maybe not even better than knowing that my wife's okay, but even better, like I get to look up on my phone things about, anything that I want to build my knowledge. I could read books. I could listen to podcasts. You could listen to this podcast right now, and hopefully it brings you some value. The iPhone is so amazing. The smartphone is so amazing, but it's the Apple, because the temptation in your hand is pure evil as well. Although there's good that could come as well, there's pure evil, right? What is there that's purely evil? We talked about it, right? Pornography. I mean, pornography, just to kind of highlight on that as well, pornography is why, effeminate men are a thing right now. And it's not even just men. I mean, women as well are falling into this as well. But it is such a disgusting, dirty, brutal destroyer of the soul. And if you are listening to this and you are watching porn, I'm praying, please stop. Please stop. It is decreasing your manhood, and ultimately it is wrecking your soul. Okay. Lust is the easiest sin to fall into, or I think St. Paul even says that. But more so than that, that temptation is there in your hand all the time. It's very, very hard. But porn is almost like a gateway drug a lot of the times, right? And if you listen to some crazy stuff, I just read Taylor Marshall's book, Christian Patriot. I was so eye-opened by this. He was talking about the serial killer Ted Bundy. And why did Ted Bundy become a serial killer? It led from porn. He was watching pornography, and eventually it just didn't give into that high that he thought he was, getting from initially. And he needed a new outlet for it. And eventually it led to him being abusive to girls, to him literally hunting down and killing girls, killing people. It's tough, man. It's tough, and it's hard. It's definitely the hardest thing to break. It's the hardest thing to break. So, you also have it from a divorce perspective, getting back on that a little bit more. People that watch porn, in their relationship, or even before that, they have this false sense of reality of what the expectations are, right? It's like, this porn star was doing some crazy stuff from the camera. Like, maybe I can get my girl to do that too. And then your girl's like, I'm not doing that. That's disgusting. And you're like, oh my gosh, like what's going on here? I don't want this. And then it creates this fantasy in your head of like what should actually be occurring. And because it's not occurring, you start psyching yourself out. You start saying, you know what, like, I think I want more. And then, that leads down a rabbit hole, and one thing leads to another. And then, a few months later, like you have no chemistry with your wife, and all of a sudden you want a divorce. It's a gateway drug. It needs to stop. It needs to stop. So we see these two pillars are really crumbling. Faith, as we talked about, attendance at mass from 75% to 17%. Divorce from 1 out of every 5 people in the 1950s to now 1 out of every 2 couples in the 2020s. That's where we are. And when we look at what's happened with these past few instances, I'm going to take the church shooting at first. You have a guy who was, once a guy or once a girl, now becoming a guy. It's going one way or the other. I think it was a guy that's becoming a girl. He goes and he shoots up this Catholic church. And he drops these videos beforehand. And in these videos, he's loading up weapons and he's saying the kids tomorrow or whatever else he's saying on the weapons. He has things written down like, where is your God? Take this, all of you, and eat. If you don't know what that is, by the way, that is from the Last Supper, where Jesus Christ is giving out the bread. He's giving out his body, which will be given up for you, is what he says. And this guy's writing that on the gun. And then he's doing target practice on a target that has a picture of the crucified Jesus Christ on it. It's crazy. It's crazy. And then he shows this picture. Well, he doesn't show it, but it was discovered afterwards in his journal. It's a picture of him looking into a bathroom mirror. He drew this. He drew this in his journal. It's him looking into his bathroom mirror, and there's on the picture of him, he's got like a gun on his back, and he's got another gun either in his hand or on his hip, and he's looking into the bathroom mirror, and looking back at him is a demon. And it's unclear on if he's looking in the mirror and looking back at him as himself as a demon, or he's looking in the mirror and a demon is looking back at him. But in any regard, he's possessed. Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. This man or girl, Robin, he was possessed. And true, listen, we have to pray for his soul, because no matter what happens in any regard, it is our calling to pray for the people that pass away, to pray for God's mercy on them. But this man is possessed. And I think he was 22, 23 years old. And at some point he got a sex change, and you see that his parents signed off on it. His mom signed off on it. His mom used to be a Catholic, got divorced. So broken family, that's the first pillar. Probably had a bad experience and relationship with the faith at that point, because maybe his parents got divorced. He thought they were good Catholics. All of a sudden they get divorced. Now he has this, discombobulation with the faith. He goes, he commits a mortal sin, gets a sex change, and the devil walks in, takes over. He goes out and he kills these kids. And those kids are martyrs. They died in a church praying. And if you die a martyr, it means you immediately go to heaven. You are united with Christ. So it gives us comfort to know that about those children. But for those other 17 children, they're scarred for life. And just we'll kind of wrap up on the Robin talk here. But, one other thing that's quite interesting is when all this happened, first and foremost, it didn't get a ton of coverage. And most people weren't calling it a Catholic hate crime. They were like, this person went out, killed them. Gun control. Gun control. That's what we need to be talking about. Gun control. They weren't talking about a Catholic hate crime. They weren't talking about the fact that this guy was shooting a image of the crucified Jesus Christ and was drawing himself looking back at a demon. They weren't talking about that. And through all of this, I was watching some news shows, and I even saw this one chick. I don't know what cast she was on or whatever. It was just a video, but they didn't say Catholic hate crime one time. And then at the very end, she kind of was like, yeah, and it looks like he really had something against our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And then they cut her off, right? Because they don't even want to say it. They don't even want to put Christ in the equation. They don't. They're totally just disregarding it and focusing on gun control and the fact that people hate trans. It's just insane, man. It's so crazy. But on that note, let's talk about gun control next, right? Because that's what they're pushing. They're pushing that we need gun control so they could take it out of our hands and then, let these other, criminals go out and get them illegally so that they could, just start using them at their will. But let's look at, Arena on the train. She was stabbed. She wasn't shot. And it's one of these situations where we need to look at what this guy's background was. And again, praying for him as well, praying for his soul, praying for God's mercy. But let's look at his background. He was locked up like 15 times, I think I saw before this, and was let out. Why? Why? And, people will look at this and they'll be like, man, like, what kind of God lets this happen? And people take God and they think that they could put him in this box and they could just call on him or put him away whenever they want. That's not how this works, guys. If you keep eating candy every day and one day you go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, guess what? You have diabetes. And you turn around and you be like, I can't believe this is happening. God, why would you let this happen to me? Is God unjustful? No, he's perfectly just because you did this. This was your decision. That's one of the beautiful things about free will that we have, guys, is you get to make your decisions. God has you in the palm of his hands, but he cannot force you to do something. You must will it. He gives you that. That's a beautiful gift, free will. So if you just keep eating candy and you get diabetes and you turn around and you say, God, why did you do this to me? I'm never coming to mass again. I'm never going to talk to you again. You're wrecking yourself. And when we look at the situation with Irina, she was killed. Guy got out of jail 15 times. We need to look at that and say, like, what's going on here? It's not that we live in a crazy world. It's the fact that we're not doing anything about it. Gun control or not, it doesn't matter. This guy killed her with a knife. The realities are America killed her because we let him out 15 times. And we'll wrap it up with Charlie Kirk here, right? This one hits home for sure. Young guy, Christian evangelist. It seems like he was on his way to Catholicism too, which is beautiful. He said some beautiful things about our Blessed Mother Mary. But I think what hits the most is 31 years old, wife, 2 children. And for me, very relatable. He's got a daughter and a son, relatively the same ages, the age gap at least of my kids. So watching that video of his daughter run to him, it hit home. Definitely hit home. And to know that his daughter, I think she's in her 2-year age, and his son is 6-ish months, somewhere around there. To know that they're really not going to have any actual memory really of him is rough. It's rough. This is a father who loved his family, who spoke so aggressively about the broken family pillar and the broken faith pillar in this world, in this country, and he lost his life. He was assassinated. And you have people that are saying good, he died. And it's so crazy. And I think all of that just speaks volumes to what he was trying to bring back into this nation, which is a nation that's focused around Christian values, that focuses on faith, that focuses on family, that focuses on the future of our children, that focuses on the direct role that parents have on their kids. We're sending our kids to school for 8 hours a day so that they could be fed this new secular religion, that they could be fed that there's 150 genders so that they could do things and the parents can't know about it. I mean, I think it's been a little while since I heard this, but I think there was something where like if a kid's caught with like weed or something that the teachers don't need to tell the parents, like it's some crazy stuff like that. We're letting the government run our kids. And the reason why we're doing that is because unfortunately we live in a world where economically it's very, very hard to sustain a family with one income. So you have a lot of people that are forced to bring, both the husband and the wife, the mother and the father, they have to go to work. So the only choice that they have is to pay, out the wazoo for daycare or to give them, to a nanny or something and have somebody that they don't even know raise their kids. Like that's the realities of where it's going. And I totally understand that. Here's what I will say about all of that is it's very, very hard for us to control the economic circumstances of our nation. This government, America is in trillions of dollars of debt. It is not good, right? You take out a credit card, you're getting hit with like 24% interest. There's nothing good that comes from that stuff, right? But we can't base the raising of our children, the most important part of it around the fact that we need to hold two incomes. We need to adjust our level of living if that's the case. And again, I understand it's not an easy thing to do. And it's not something that might be able to be done overnight. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that if you are a husband listening to this and you're like, oh, my wife works, like Frankie's thinking less of me. That's absolutely not the case. That's not the case. And I'm not also expecting you to turn around and be like, honey, stop your job tomorrow, and we're just going to roll the dice and see what happens. That's also not prudent, right? But we need to look at it from a perspective of what's more important. Having two incomes where we can afford a house with a nice backyard and be able to take, 2 trips a year, but we send our kid away to school for 8 hours a day where he gets fed this, absolute nonsense, or downsizing, maybe living in a small apartment, but having my wife at home to raise my children the proper way so that they are not lost like these other people are, like these people that are committing these crimes are. As much as we want to look at them and we, of course, we could look at them and say their actions were absolutely out of bounds. There's no doubt about that. But let's look at their background. Where did they come from? Most likely, and we see it directly with Robin, most likely broken families. And a lot of these families are broken, guys, because of just a world that's putting a lot of pressure on them. There's a lot of temptation. There's a lot of economic hardship. There's a lot of, unhealthy expectations. There's a lot of challenges. And it's leading to a high divorce rate. It's leading to broken families, which is leading to a broken society, which is leading to brokenness in faith. And we need to get back to it. So all that to say, we pray for the children that died in the church. We pray for Arena. We pray for Charlie. We pray for this nation and this world, that we get back to a nation that focuses on family and faith, that goes to church with their families. And listen, if you're a parent and you have kids and you're like, every time I go to church, my kids start screaming their head off, good. There's a saying that if the church isn't crying, it's dying. Bring your kids to mass. It is the best thing that you could ever do for them. I promise that. Little Timmy does not need to go to the Eagles game. He does not need to go to the Eagles game. He needs to go to mass. I promise you that. Take little Timmy to mass, and you're going to be doing more for that kid than you could by putting him in the first row of the Eagles game or in box suite tickets. All right, so listen, all that to say, we need to better this world, and it starts with us. You need to first change yourself. Recognize, where are you failing? Where are you not being your best? What should you ought to be doing rather than what do you want to be doing? Start there. After that, spread it to your family. And then after that, spread it to your community, and then spread it to the nation. And that's how it goes. We cannot be dormant. We cannot go buy a ranch and live off the land like I want to do sometimes. We need to be vocal. We need to take up space. And if you're liking a lot of the things that I'm saying, I'm going to give a lot of credit to the Christian Patriot book from Taylor Marshall. That book was a life-changing book. When I read it, I highly recommend it. So if you take 2 things out of this, go read Christian Patriot, and please join Rosary and Real Estate. You can find the link in the show notes. And you can also find it on my Instagram, Frankie D'Astoli _REI, or Rosary and Real Estate. There's an Instagram handle for that one as well. And we're going to be dropping the Rare 21 Challenge. That comes out tomorrow, 21 days leading up to the Feast of the Holy Rosary. I pray that you guys join it. It's going to be a lot of great information. And I pray that you join Rare. There's going to be a lot of great stuff that comes out there too. So I appreciate you guys. Pray the Rosary, buy real estate. God bless. Peace out.